And welcome to the Township Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for Wednesday, September 18th. We'll call ourselves to order here at 4:45 p.m. First item on the agenda is our national anthem, so I'll get everybody to stand, please, and face the flag. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Township of Whitewater Region and our community that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Omami-Winneni Algonquin people. We thank the Omami-Winneni people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We're extremely grateful for the many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of Indigenous people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Next item on the agenda is our adoption of the agenda. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the September 18th agenda. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Trim, is there any errors, omissions, additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Good, and I'll just note, we do have quorum, but Councillor Bell is actually working in Ottawa, and he may pop in virtually if available, and that'll be noted in the minutes when he is joining us for meeting. The next item on the agenda is our adoption of minutes, the September 4th minutes. Recommendation is the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the September 4th, 2024 regular and closed session minutes, understanding that the closed session minutes remain confidential. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Moore, is there any errors or omissions that anyone's noted in the minutes that needs to be changed? Good, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Next item is just committees and boards, some minutes that we include for information purposes for members of council. We have the Muskrat Watershed August 17th. I think that was their AGM, minutes from their AGM, and I'll go to the councillor lead. Councillor Tabbert, is there anything you want to highlight?
Nothing.
Not at this time? Good, so they're just there for your information. Next item on the agenda is disclosures of interest. Is there any disclosures that need to be made by members of council with respect to anything on the agenda tonight? Good, and I see none. And that comes up with our first presentation. 6.1 is a presentation. Muskrat Watershed Council is celebrating their 10th anniversary this year, as was celebrated in our AGM. And what we wanted to do was just formally recognize their efforts, all the volunteers, for everything that they're doing to keep our water healthy. So I'm going to get our president, Karen Koulis, to come up into the front, and the deputy mayor will say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. The Muskrat Watershed Council is a volunteer, community-based, not-for-profit organization whose goal is to improve water quality on the Muskrat Lake watershed using scientific and local-based knowledge to engage and empower people and communities in identifying and reducing nutrient loading from all sources on the watershed. MWC aims to engage the community for healthy land, water, and quality of life for future generations to come. They provide sampling for OMEPC with the help of the Algonquin College Environmental Technician Program. Data on the overall water quality of the watershed can be used to understand where to focus remediation and or best practices implementation. Numerous projects are organized, led, and supported by local volunteers like the Cobden Marsh Cleanup Trail, the Cobden Beach Aeration System Upgrade, Shoreline Enhancement, and Dissolved Oxygen and Phosphorus Study on Muskrat Lake, to name a few. We would like to thank the continuing effort and care that this dedicated group of volunteers play in our community. Congratulations on your 10-year anniversary.
So, on behalf of council, we just want just a small token to recognize the 10 years. Congratulations to the volunteers whose hard work and dedication to help find solutions, educate, and protect the muskrat watershed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. She did her duty.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next item, we have a presentation, delegation from Mr. Donald Deere on wastewater here in Cobden. So, Mr. Deere, I know clerk has already given you the laydown on how to use that mic. So please come on forward.
Just bear with me.
I'm trying to read it off the screen. I get lost if I read it.
That's okay. We'll give it a second here to get it started up.
Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Okay. Floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, I want to talk to you today about the timeline of the contract with JP2G on the Cobden wastewater treatment plant. Next page. And guest and I, as well as council, should be concerned about several things that happen on this project that should not have. That's why we got involved. I've highlighted those items with a red concern. March 6, 2013, Council of Whitewater Region directs staff to order a water and sewage treatment plant capacity analysis from consultants JP2G Inc. at a cost of $6,000. May 1st, 2013, JP2G recommended that the municipal class environmental assessment process be initiated to help identify and evaluate the options of providing sufficient municipal services, sewer services to the village of Cobden. Next page. Okay, February 19th, 2014, delegation from JP2G to do a municipal class environmental assessment presentation for the Cobden wastewater treatment plant. And be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approves JP2G consultants' proposal for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of a municipal class environmental assessment for the Cobden wastewater treatment plant distribution systems. Proposal, I think, was $222,000. That is a concern. November 19th, 2014, Council passed a motion asking staff to apply for a small communities fund grant of $6,164,445. December 17th, 2014, JP2G gave an assessment report to Whitewater Region of the Cobden wastewater treatment plant, and total cost to upgrade the Cobden plant was $9,246,688 plus HST. That's a concern because, first of all, consultant can't possibly know right to the dollar what it is, especially since he didn't even know what the hell he was going to build. Sorry. December 19th, 2014, application for funding submitted. The formal Phase 1 and Phase 2 study requirements were initiated by JP2G in October 2015. However, earlier studies and documentation required to support a funding application under the Small Communities Fund completed in 2014. Cost of what? I have no idea. June 22nd, 2015, announcement of funding. August 19, 2015, council meeting. Since JP2G already had the approval to do the environmental assessment study, Joe Donato did a presentation to do the project management on the new Cobden plant. In that same meeting, Council passed a motion. Council appoint JP2G consultants as our engineer of record to oversee the upgrades to the Cobden sewer plant. In a September 16, 2015 council meeting, Council passed a motion accepting the Small Communities Fund agreement, and about 10 minutes later, they violated that agreement by hiring JP2G, and JP2G ultimately violated that same agreement later on in the project. Cost of that was $425,424. Next page. September 2015, fixed fee contract signed with JP2G. That's another concern. If somebody wants to know what it is, I'll tell them later. October 15th, 2015, project initiation meeting. October 21st, 2016, contract amount is $449,066. November 28th, 2016, letter from JP2G to Whitewater Council asking to reallocate $381,840 of engineering costs to themselves. December 7th, 2016, Council discussed the letter from JP2G of November 28th, requesting an additional $381,000. It appeared in the letter that they wanted to reallocate $960,000 to themselves, so Councillors Charlene Jackson and Chris Olmsted objected, and Council asked for clarification. The $381,000 amount was added in a December 21st Council meeting based upon a letter from JP2G of December 19th, 2016. They justified this amount by saying it would speed up the process after they wasted 19 months before they even started. Next page, December 21st, 2016. Contract amount shown as $828,406. April 1st, JP2G added the contract to the contract $20,000 for the Part 2 order. Contract amount now is $848,406. September 30th, 2017, contract amount now is $859,906. JP2G changed the amount of Part 2 order to $31,500 after their visit to Port Carling. That's a concern. February 7th, 2018, Council passed Bylaw 18-02-1039, confirming the JP2G contract amount of $859,906. In a letter from the consultant dated January 11th, 2018, they confirmed that they would do both the revisions to the old plant and the new MBR plant as a design bid build for the same total as previous, $859,906. Design bid build means they're going to do the design and send it out for bid. April 18th, 2018, JP2G in their status report shows a contract amount of $864,766. The consultant added $4860 for Part 2 order. Part 2 order was rescinded on March 10th, 2018. May 2018, consultant sole sourced the main process equipment. Huge concern. Next page. June 20th, 2018, JP2G in their status report shows a contract amount of $868,566. They added $3,800 for the ECA application. That's a concern. All items in this report were 100% complete except project administration. Whitewater still owed them $110,007 plus tax. It's interesting to note that this is the last report from JP2G that shows their cost on this project. July 4th, 2018, Janet Collins' memo shows expected total cost for the consultant of $868,566 plus HST. 19 months later, on February 19, 2020, Janet Collins' memo, Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant Status Report, shows estimated cost of JP2G's services as $1.236 million plus HST. This should have been a wake-up call to Whitewater staff and council, since the fixed fee contract amount was $868,566, unless that extra $368,000 was requested by JP2G and approved by council. Between July 25, 2018 and June 16, 2022, the consultant invoiced and Whitewater paid them $780,000, even though the contract amount owed was $110,000. That's a huge concern. October 2023, in a presentation to council, Lane Claroux stated that the total cost for JP2G and the Cobden plant was $1.725 million, including HST. Next page. I could not find any public document, resolution, bylaw, or amendment in Whitewater Council meeting agenda / minutes or special minutes that Whitewater Council agreed to the increase from 868,566 to 1.725 million. That's a concern. Also, I could not find any public document from JP2G requesting more funds than the 868,566. Section 1.23.2 of their contract states the consultant will require prior written approval from the client for any of the following changes. Any increase in the estimated fees beyond those approved under Section 1.23.1. Other areas of concern are the field change orders. There's $700 and some odd thousand of field change orders. All were charged to Whitewater Region. Normally, several would have been charged to the consultant. In my opinion, there are several that need to be investigated. One is $82,000 for piping size increase. Cost of subcontractors being right to the nearest $1,000. Did the consultant add their 5% as allowed in their contract? That one looks very suspicious. So the questions we have are, were those extra charges requested for approval by JP2G and approved by council in writing? If the answer to that question is no, then I suggest that you should consult your lawyer, as it could be potential fraud. If they were not approved by council, then why were they paid? Residents of Cobden deserve to answer these questions. On another note, I offered my services at no cost to Whitewater Region to help do an investigation, but I got no response. Okay, Ann, it's all yours.
Just an explanation of how I got involved in this. I began writing letters to the now extinct Whitewater News and
Microphone.
oh, sorry. All right. Just an explanation of how I got involved in all of this. I wrote a letter to the Whitewater News complaining about the increased cost of our water sewer bills, and Don Deere responded to me via the Whitewater News, which is now extinct, unfortunately. So we were so concerned about the whole thing, and Don has been an invaluable source of information that I didn't have access to, and he obviously knows all the facts and figures. But as a resident of Cobden, I'm really concerned about the delay tactics that have occurred since our investigation began. Not only have we spent a considerable amount of money applying for Freedom of Information forms, but we have received very few responses to these applications. The task force made over 40 recommendations to council, and they have yet to be presented. And we were told that in September the task force would be invited to the council meeting, and that we would be they would be presented for approval to council. And this was not, and any emails I sent here asking why, I didn't receive a response.
Sorry, Ms. Guest, you have 2 minutes.
Pardon?
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. This town needs answers now. Please consider how difficult this is for the entire population of Cobden. That's it.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Deere and Mrs. Guest. We appreciate that. What I'll do now is I'll just open it to council to see if there's any questions. Is there any questions from any members of council? Okay. Seeing none, I just want to thank Mr. Deere. I know you've invested a lot of time and you've been digging through files that indicate they go back to 2015. I'm sure there's even more than what you're able to present on the slide, so we appreciate you doing that. I've noted your concerns, your huge concerns, and the 2 questions that you offered in the summary of the slide.
Can we get an answer to those?
So the intent is that we have, and since this was first brought up to us last September, we have been examining this and including the approvals associated with the engineering agreement, and amongst others, the contract administration of our wastewater treatment plant. We are reviewing the relevant documents and processes, and this includes the task force recommendations with the support of the legal experts. and an update is going to be provided in the near future. And I believe the task force recommendations are scheduled to come as early as October. Is that right? CAO, can you confirm that?
Yeah, so certainly, just to reiterate what Mrs. Guess has said, that the original intended timeline was that we would try to get the final report to council today. We're in the midst of finishing the final draft, which will be circulated to the task force members probably in the next week, so they have an opportunity to review the final contents before it's published. So we're hoping that October 2nd, we could invite the members on October 2nd so that council could finally receive the number of recommendations. So October 2nd would be the earliest, and maybe the second meeting in October. So we're just working through that now.
Perfect, thanks, CAO.
Answer to that first question again. Respectfully.
I acknowledge that, and like I said in my feedback, is that we're currently reviewing all of the documents, including the summary that you've provided, with the support of some legal experts. So we want to make sure that we get it right, and that we're providing back a clear response with a clear line ahead. So that answer will be following shortly, and you could. I don't have a date yet because it depends on the input of these experts. But it is on and I make the commitment, it will be coming back and it will be discussed and presented back. I'm sorry?
I'd like to let James Hogan know as soon as possible.
I don't know who James Hogan is, but we can talk afterwards and make sure Mr. Hogan is included in any release of any agenda that includes that item. Good.
It's not rocket science, so I think we can solve the problem.
I completely understand, and I've forgotten your last name, Ben, but thank you, sir. I have to restrict, our procedural bylaw restricts me from having engagements directly with our audience, but I appreciate your input, and we are taking this. It's difficult for us to talk to a lot of those types of concerns, which are read in open, in public, without making sure that we have the right steps in place to be able to take any future action. For us to discuss something in public ties our hands as to how we might approach it. So we're making sure we get the correct advice before we proceed. But we do acknowledge and appreciate the presentation that was provided and the information that you've included.
Thank you.
Good. And does that trigger any other comments from members of council? Good. Seeing none. Thank you so much. We appreciate that delegation. The next item on our agenda is the technical updates to the comprehensive township zoning bylaw, and it's actually going to pause the regular council meeting for a moment while we conduct what's referred to as a formal public meeting that would receive input on these technical updates to the comprehensive township zoning bylaw. So I'm just going to convert to a public meeting. Sorry, yeah. So, like I said, our regular council meeting is paused, and we are now calling a public meeting to order at 5:11 p.m. And first off, I'd like to ask our new planner, Alex, to kindly provide us with some important information pertaining to the public meeting process, please.
Thank you. If any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Whitewater Region before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council, the decision of council of the Township of Whitewater Region to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Section 3419 of the Planning Act states that not later than 20 days after giving of notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, a specified person who, before the bylaw was passed, made oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the council, a public body that, before the bylaw was passed, made oral submissions at the public meeting or written submissions to the council, the registered owner of any land to which the bylaw would apply if, before the bylaw was passed, the owner made an oral submission at the public meeting or written submissions to the council, or the minister may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And next would just be a quick summary of what's being presented.
Yeah, thanks so much. So what's before council tonight and put out to the public for some comments is some technical amendments to our recently approved zoning bylaw. So council will remember in January of this year, we passed our new township-wide comprehensive zoning bylaw. So that was the consolidation of our four or five former zoning bylaws. So as part of that process through 2023, we had several opportunities for consultation, and we arrived at council making a decision in January. So over the past 8 months, we did identify a few items that needed to be revised, which is not uncommon. Some of them relate to comments from the County of Renfrew, other minor omissions from individual properties, and other items other technical items that we are now realizing did not meet the necessary needs of our community. So the first one identified by the County of Renfrew is that we had omitted the inactive waste disposal sites in our zoning schedule. So the actual maps now have a little star that shows the inactive waste disposal sites. Number two, the Algonquin Trail and CN rail line were both just identified as the color white. The county has requested that we give them a zoning category of open space, which essentially allows them to be active recreational trails. So another one from the county. So number three is an amendment to the tourism commercial exception 7 zone. So when we were consulting with Summerhill Resorts during the original review, they had requested that we make a minor amendment to the type of use that was allowed in Champlain Village. Champlain Village are those life leases of units, and they allow for semi-detaches, and they had requested that we allow for single detached units. So we had omitted that in our final bylaw, and we're just making that amendment now. Number 4, we realized that in the agricultural zone, the maximum lot coverage was 2%, recognizing that typically agriculturally zoned properties are 100 acres or 50 acres, but there are some smaller 1 or 2 acre properties that exist, and you just can't comply with a 2% lot coverage on 1 acre, so that'll be increased to similar to the rural zone of 20%. Number 5, the Trans-Canada Pipeline Limited strip of land that runs through a portion of our community. So just the correct name of TCPL, I think we just had noted as maybe Trans-Canada by itself, and some language around setbacks that they've communicated to us following the adoption of the bylaw. And the last one relating to the minimum rear yard and interior side yard widths for detached structures, so accessory structures from 1 meter to 1.2 meters. So in consultation with our building department, since we adopted the bylaw, the Ontario Building Code essentially establishes a 1.2 meter setback to support fire separation between the shed and any sort of fence structure, so we figured a 1.2 meter would be more reasonable. So the technical amendment application was in fact filed by the township. So we filed this application in order to make these edits, and the edits pertain to those 6 items. So we're not consolidating the zoning here. The amendments, similar to a site-specific amendment, are just these 6 items. So aside from that, it's the view of staff that they're minor in nature, and certainly these changes will not have any significant effect on land use patterns in our community. So it's before the members of council and for the public to provide some input on these 6 items. Thanks.
Good, thank you, CAO. I'm just going to pause for a moment before we go any further. It's just been brought to our attention. Councillor Olmsted, did you have a declaration you wanted to make?
Yeah. I'm sorry, and I skipped over this when I was reading it, but I have a conflict of interest in item 9.4. Grand Settlement Road Bridge, so I'll remove myself from council at that time. Thank you.
Perfect. We acknowledge that as part of our disclosure for item 9.4 for Councillor Olmsted. Good, and we received in writing his reasons? Or he's filling it out right now? Excellent. Perfect. Thank you for the pause. So just go back to what the CAO had provided, and to members of the public that are present today or any that might be virtual. Before council can make amendments to anything related to planning, the Planning Act requires for this very specific process to happen. That includes the opportunity for the public to make to provide council feedback before they make the decision. It can be done in person, as we have open tonight, virtually, or in writing. So there's lots of opportunity to be able to influence council and to making the decision. The 6 items that were listed here by the CAO earlier are the 6 decisions that council is considering, and we are looking for feedback from the community on any of these 6 that might be something we need to consider before we make that decision. Anything else I need to say at this point? Good. So with that, we will now turn it over to the public. If you would like to make a public feedback, please come to the mic, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Donna Burns. I'm a resident here in Whitewater. And I realize what you're trying to do with these amendments, but there's something you might want to consider with these amendments, something else that will require amending in this comprehensive zoning bylaw. I'm going to make you aware of a few things that I don't think you are aware of. Are you aware that the province only owns or controls 87% of the landmass in Ontario? The other 13% is privately owned land. That's on their website. Under the British North American Act, the Constitution of 1867, Section 92, was where the Crown granted the provincial legislature the opportunity to make laws under certain classes of subject. One of the classes of subject was the creation of municipal institutions. Another class of subject was stated where they have the management and sale of public lands belonging to the province. Those are just 2 of the items I want to bring forward because this speaks to your comprehensive zoning bylaw. With the province creating the Municipal Act and the Planning Act and other legislative acts, the Forestry Act, Public Lands Act, all those acts, those are the laws the provincial legislature makes. Those laws are for the employees and staff of government levels, of governments, municipal governments, provincial and federal, to comply to protect and manage the 87% of the landmass they only have control over. That's why you will see in the Municipal Act in sections 11 where it states, subsection 2, part 4, public assets must be acquired before you can exercise your authority on it. In other words, the 13% of the private land that might be within this geographical location, you have to acquire that land before you can create your bylaws to regulate such land. That's under the Constitution. That's in the Municipal Act. That's also in the Planning Act, I think, if you look at section 21, where you require the owner's consent. So, Municipal Affairs and Housing is the provincial ministry that's responsible for guiding municipal institutions. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is the ministry that looks after the control of land. So if they sell any portion of land and they issue a letters patent, they state in that letters patent, actually it's on their website, the Ministry of Natural Resources does not retain future options for the land and does not control use, because that's private land. Once they let go of it, it's private land. They don't have the authority. So I ask you, if they don't have the authority, Why do you municipalities think you have the authority to control 100% of the land within this geographical location? And when I've approached planners, other people have approached planners saying, where does it state in the legislative acts that you have the authority to regulate private land? They can't find it. And they won't find it because it's not written in there. It's not meant to be used against private property. It's only meant to be used for you to comply to the land that you are responsible for. So I'm suggesting that this comprehensive zoning bylaw that I already brought forward to you back last October when you had your public meeting then was ultra-virus, because you are putting things in that land, applying it to private land that you have no authority over. And you are, if you regulate and enforce regulation on that private land, you are subjecting yourself to a tort action. Now, the municipalities are created by the province. And the province knows they only have authority over 87% of the land. So why do you figure we have elections? The elections are for where the people elect representatives to protect the provincial or the private interests of those property owners within that geographical location. Their role and their job is to ensure that the government or the staff do not overstep their authority on the private interests of land. That's your job. And you are failing the people when you do not read the legislation and understand your role when you create a bylaw and you pass a bylaw without understanding where the authority lies. It does not apply on land that does not belong to the municipality or under its control or management. So this comprehensive zoning bylaw is ultra-virus. And I would suggest you read some of this information, go to the website. That's what the province is for. They don't have authority on private land, neither do municipalities. And just so you understand, we rule by common law. And under common law, all of Canada, except for the province of Quebec, rules by common law. And under common law, you cannot dirty or pollute your neighbor's air, water, or soil. So for instance, if a property owner had a dispute with his neighbor where his land was being flooded by his neighbor, he can't go to the municipality and say to the municipality, I'm having an issue, the neighbor's water is flooding my land and I can't do anything with it. The municipality has no authority over that. Neither does the province. That is a matter under common law that has to be settled between the two neighbors where they go to court. It's a civil action. However, if the province or if the municipality was affected from this flooding on their property where it was going to interfere with their property, yes, they can do something about it. So this is where you have to understand when it comes to private property and you're issuing these bylaws, you are to understand your role, where your authority lies, and to protect the interests, the private interests of all the property owners, the residents, and ensuring you're not overstepping their authority to take their rights away. So that's my piece. So I would suggest you have a better look at that comprehensive zoning bylaw and make further amendments to it and follow up on that legislation. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mrs. Burns. We appreciate that input. Is there any other member of the community that wants to make any public comment related to the 6 items that were presented by the CAO? Yes, ma'am. Hi. Just make it green.
Okay.
Yeah, and just introduce yourself, please, and then go
Bonnie
on.
Buchanan Finn.
Excellent. Thank
And
you.
I'm an old Beachburg person.
Okay.
And I do have islands, and I didn't realize. Thank you very much, Ms. Burns. Thank you for clarifying. I own 2 islands now. I've sold one, but over 30 acres. And whenever Hal Johnson was mayor, I wanted to build something on Man Island. I got information back that I could only build something 10 by 10. Like, give me a break. On 30 acres, I had somebody who wanted to do kayaking and canoeing, and he wanted to rent one of my islands. He couldn't build anything. And so I thank Ms. Burns for bringing that up, because, hey, where did you get that law that I had to build only something 10 by 10? Or how do I get rid of it? Thank you, that's all.
Very much appreciate your information. Maybe we'll get you in contact with our planner afterwards, and he'll be able to help guide you through some of those reference documents that would influence anything on islands, because I'm not particularly familiar with it. But thank you. Is there any other public comment? Good. One more time I have to ask. Is there any other public comment? Mrs. Burns?
Add one more thing.
I will. I'll come back to you, but I just have to make sure I go through the right procedure here to make it fair to everyone. Is there any public comment that was received in writing for us to consider?
I received none.
And is there anyone on virtual that would like to provide public comment?
There is nobody.
Excellent. Okay. Mrs. Burns, I'll entertain, yes, if you want to come back to the mic just for a moment, please.
I don't want to come across as being rude or aggressive or anything like that. What I have learned is none of us are taught about property rights in our education. We're all ignorant in understanding it. We're not educated on it. It's taken me over 13 years to learn what I know now. So I just want you to, what I believe what is happening is it's in the education system. I think our planners are being misinformed, or being presented with ideas in their training and schooling to think one way. And then they pass that knowledge onto the counselors. They're supposed to be experts. You guys come in as a council, you don't know any of this stuff, you don't read the legislation, you trust your staff. But again, you were never educated on property rights. I've talked with politicians, MPs and MPPs, the same thing. They're all in the same boat. We're all ignorant of it. And this is why it's so important that we understand this knowledge and get back on the right track. So I apologize if I come across sounding very aggressive. I don't mean to be. I just think it's so important that you learn and be aware of this to understand. It's very simple. Once you get the gist of it, there's a role there, and we just follow it, and we protect each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have to stress, we are guided by legislation, and for instance, how this public meeting portion ensures public input. So there is lots of things that govern the way that we manage these types of issues. So I just would encourage anybody, if you have questions about either Ms. Burns' perspective or other perspectives, that is also something that is available online or even through some of our staff. Excellent. That would then summarize all of our public input. And next step, which sheet am I on? Good. So at this point, I can call this public meeting adjourned at 5:29 p.m. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's address, which I will provide the mayor's address, and then we'll take a short recess before we get into the rest. So we are recommencing our regular public council meeting at 5:29 p.m. So my mayor's address for September 18th. September has been a very busy month so far, even more so for all the parents making things work without school buses. And I have to acknowledge that. All the Whitewater businesses supporting their employees with school-aged children. I know that the school board and the province are working to find a resolution, And I know I can speak for all of council when I say that we appreciate the tremendous burden that this puts on our families. In my discussions with our MPP's office and the school board trustees, I have shared the concerns that I have heard and the impacts that it's having on our families and businesses. So we're just hoping that that comes to resolution as quickly as possible. Since our last council meeting on September 4th, I've attended 15 meetings on behalf of council. As a county councillor, I attended another 2 committee meetings, as well as 2 additional meetings of the Renfrew County District Health Unit. I would like to share some additional details from some of the meetings that I attended. That'll be pertinent for either public or council. On September 5th, the CEO and I attended a national security roundtable with our Member of Parliament, the Honourable Cheryl Gallant. She had invited a guest speaker, Joseph Varner, who provided an overview of security at the international level, and it was an opportunity for the CEO and I to collaborate with our neighbouring municipalities and discuss municipal level emergency preparedness. On September 6th, I participated in a meeting with Eganville and District Seniors and the advocacy rep from the Ontario Community Support Association, and where we discussed our advocacy efforts to increase the level of seniors' home support within Whitewater. The OCSA works with community support agencies like Eganville to advocate to Ontario Health to increase funding in rural Ontario in our specific case. On September 9th, the CEO and I joined our Whitewater Seniors Working Group to provide a brief overview on our home support advocacy efforts to date. For those that might be tracking, we are now a funded Seniors Active Living Centre from the province. We'd like to increase that active living to include home support. We're advocating to have the province provide those investments, including, I summarized our delegations that we had at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, where we met with the Minister of Health, a local meeting with John Yakubuski, the Ottawa Valley Ontario Health Team, our ministry regional reps, OCSA, and the neighbouring home support agencies. So we're working very hard to try to make sure that the province sees Whitewater as an opportunity to invest to make a difference in the lives of our seniors. On September 11th to 13th, I attended the Ontario East Municipal Conference in Ottawa as the County of Renfrew rep. There were some great presentations on economic development, plans to support growth, and how to fund arenas, fire halls, rec buildings in small rural communities of less than 10,000, as well as working with short-term rentals and many more topics. The conference closed with a presentation from Dr. Mike Moffat taking a look at the housing demand and the demographic growth of Ottawa and surrounding regions that include Renfrew County. So interestingly, the growth for the regions around Ottawa, so not part of Ottawa, but they all touch the border, Renfrew County being one. The growth in this region has been in families of ages 25 to 30 who have the flexibility to work in Ottawa but want to raise a family where they can afford a small home, and ages 47 to 60 who are older career professionals looking to change their quality of life or have more space to raise families. His recommendation was to encourage the construction of 3-bedroom homes, especially apartment-like situations, and for us that might include things like duplexes, triplexes, and quads, where the construction costs can be less and therefore lower cost to the resident. Although for our rural development we also have to consider water and sewer constraints, Dr. Moffat also shared that they're seeing rent prices flatten out and even start to go down in Ottawa, directly related to the number of international students being accepted into the number of colleges and universities in that area. Overall, a very good conference, and I'd recommend council considering attending the OEMC if they have flexibility next year. On September 18th, earlier this afternoon, our Member of Parliament, John Yakubuski, cut the ribbon on our new Whitewater Region Home Support and Active Living Centre that's located in Foresters Falls in the old library building and sharing with our Historical Society. This is, like I said, funded by the province annually. We don't have to reapply. We are allocated funds to ensure that this facility and its extensions can continue to operate. From this home base in Foresters Falls, the centre will provide programming and supports throughout all of Whitewater Region, and I want to thank all the efforts of our seniors, from the members of the task force, the working group, and our amazing volunteers, the partners who have worked with us and support us in so many ways, and lastly, our staff, Stephanie, Julie, and Joyce, who have worked to make this a reality. And with the annualized funding that we now have from the province, we can continue to provide supports for our residents. That ends my mayor's report. Thank you. And with that, we'll take a short recess before we get into the next items on the agenda. Back in 4 or 5 minutes, please. Thank you. And welcome back to the Township of Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for September 18th. We're going to call ourselves back to order here at 5:54 p.m. 5:44, thank you. Even though it's right in front of my face, I'm reading it wrong. Good, and so we've concluded item number 7, which was the mayor's address just before the recess. Next is public comments. And I'll just remind for the members of the public, this is an opportunity for members of the public to register with the clerk, to be able to give us feedback on any of the items on the agenda for this evening. Again, an open opportunity for the community to be able to provide direct feedback to council on our decisions. It can be made in person, virtual, or in writing. Clerk, is there anybody registered tonight?
I received none.
Anything in writing or virtual?
I received none.
Okay, good. Sorry, and I just want to make sure that I ask. Next is our reports, and our first report, 9.1, is a technical updates from the comprehensive township zoning bylaw relating directly back to the public meeting that we held just a few moments earlier. The recommendation before council is that the council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw 2401-1655 in response to some technical revisions. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Tabbert, and staff.
Yeah, so what we have before council now is the resolution to recommend the approval of a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So we did receive 2 oral comments at the public meeting. One from Mrs. Buchanan Finn, who's still present, relating to islands, and then one from Mrs. Burns. So the island feedback. While it is important to inform our residents on the provisions around islands, it doesn't specifically relate to the 6 items. So I'm comfortable moving forward with the recommendation as it stands. Mrs. Burns, council will be aware that those opinions have been expressed before. They were expressed prior to the adoption of our original zoning bylaw. And we did move forward with the adoption of that bylaw. I would leave it, while the comments from Mrs. Burns represent something globally around the restricting of the use of land in Ontario. I would, my recommendation to council now would be that we have a bylaw in place. This is just a technical amendment to it. It will not significantly alter the policies that already exist. My recommendation is that we move forward, and I'll leave it at the discretion of council, that we move forward with the amendment. And if council wishes to do so, we could seek a legal opinion with respect to our ability to implement zoning bylaws under the Planning Act and the Municipal Act, which, at my cursory review that, there's over 400 municipalities in Ontario, and probably 3/4 of them have zoning bylaws. I would think that we have the authority to do so based on that, not from a legal opinion, but we could seek out a legal opinion to respond to that inquiry. But for the time being, I'd say in the view of staff and as it relates to process, my recommendation is that we move forward with the decision, certainly at the discretion of council, and that the amendments remain as presented in the report to council. Thanks.
Thank you, CEO. With that, I'm not going to ask the CEO to re-present what was already presented publicly. You were all part of the public meeting. But what I will do now is offer the opportunity for questions or comments from members of council. We'll start with our mover, so that's Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you. I was happy to move this, and with respect to a legal opinion, if I remember correctly, Mr. Mayor, the county did get a legal opinion with respect to the Planning Act and other things related to land use in Ontario and the authority to regulate. And so if perhaps, I don't think that we need to now get another legal opinion, but it may be worth our while to review the one that the county got, and perhaps, Mr. Mayor, that could be sent to us to refresh our memory, if you think that's appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Apologies. So yeah, certainly, the document, it has been circulated publicly, so certainly I'll reach out to the manager of planning. He'll certainly gladly provide us with a copy, and we could circulate it to the members of council to provide some feedback relating to that. I think the opinion related specifically to the official plan and the adoption of an official plan, but in any case, it's the applicability of land use restrictions and the like within Ontario. Thanks.
Yeah, it speaks directly to the authorities for us to do what we're doing right now. But good and great point, Councillor Trim. We'll get that recirculated. We'll have a chance. If there's something that when you read it, you want to make a recommendation, we can put that on the table. Excellent. I'll go with the seconder next, which was Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, I was going to see about the legal opinion, but I think if it's been done already, let's just get the one from the county and see where it takes us. Thank you.
Good. From the other members of council, and sorry, I should have said this earlier, but Councillor Bell has joined us virtually, so he is also present. But is there any other members of the council that wish to ask questions or make comments? Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, just on point number 4 regarding maximum lot coverage with respect to undersized lots, what is the allowable lot coverage for a regular sized lot now? Do we know that offhand?
It probably ranges like in the urban, like in the villages and hamlets, probably at 40% is common. But in a rural zone property, it'd be closer to the 20%. So on a 1 acre property, 20% lot coverage would probably be around 9,000 square feet on a 1 acre property. So 9,000 square feet is usually ample on a rural 1 acre property.
So the 20% is the same, so we're using the same number, 20% for a regular sized lot versus an undersized lot? Am I understanding that correctly?
So this is specific to the agricultural zones. So first, when we adopted the bylaw, we established a maximum lot coverage of 2% for ag zoned properties because they're commonly well over 1 acre.
Yeah.
But we do have some that exist that have homes on them and people want to build garages, and they were exceeding 2% of a 1 acre property, which is only like 1,000 square feet. So it was just like a missed provision. So we're going to increase it to 20%, similar to the rural zone, so that they could have the desired structures.
Great, understood. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Question. Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Moore.
Something that has sparked my interest since Bonnie got up and spoke. So I'm going to ask Councillor Trim this question. Off of Rapid Road, on the other side of the river, you have to cross by boat. There is an island there, and there's a cottage on it. Do you know anything about that property? And how come they were able to have it, but yet our speaker from this evening wasn't able to accept a 10 by 10? I'd just like clarification on that.
I don't know all of that information, but I do know about the lots you're talking about, and I believe they may be Quebec Islands.
Okay.
Some of the islands in the Ottawa River obviously are Quebec Islands, and some are Ontario Islands. I think, your islands are Ontario Islands, right? Yeah. Right. And so, and I don't know about I know, as the CAO has recommended, that our planner contact the applicant or yes, directly with what can be done in her specific case.
Okay, thank you. But because that island already had buildings on it, it was only the last couple of years they've totally fallen down. So I wonder why they... Yeah, so how come they couldn't rebuild?
Councillor Moore, I'm going to have to hold that discussion because we're way off our topic. It's important, and I don't want to take away from Mrs. Buchanan-Finn, is that right? Yeah. Mrs. Buchanan-Finn, I want to acknowledge, but we need to take it offline, talk to her in more detail about her specific case, and then go from there. We can't talk about it.
I do believe Councillor Trim may have answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. We have to stick to our topic. That's my job, to be the referee. Okay, any other questions relating to this item on the agenda? Good, I see none. Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Next item is 9.2. This is our marriage solemnization officiants. So recommendation is the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receive this report for information purposes. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Olmsted and Councillor Trim, and this is going to our clerk. Okay, please, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to provide you a little update on our services since it's been a few years since I brought this back, or since we've heard this at council. Currently on staff, the clerk and the deputy treasurer provide this service as staff members. In office is $200. We charge a fee $200, and off-site we charge $300 for the service. We also, so the authority to perform marriages belong to the clerk, who can delegate their powers to others. Currently, I've delegated the authority to 4 of our ratepayers. In order to be considered, they have to take the AMCTO course through solemnization course through AMCTO, and they have to enter into an agreement, which I've attached to this report. Currently, or to date, we approximately raised $13,000 from our private officiants. We charge them $75 for every service they provide. So it's just a quick update saying that we have four officiants, and we are generating a nice revenue. It is getting, the more and more it gets out there, the more and more services we are actually providing. And if I have any questions.
Thank you, clerk. And I'll go to the mover first, Councillor Olmsted.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Trim, the seconder.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the clerk. Do we keep on file some sort of a certificate, a copy of a certificate that indicates successful completion of the course?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, it's one of the requirements. They have to prove that they've actually taken the course, so I do that, and then they kind of provide me a little synopsis. I also ask for a letter of recommendation from somebody they know to, and then it's like an interview process. I make sure that they're a good fit.
Good. Any other questions from members of council? No, and I'll just make the comment that you're right. Wedding venues are we have a number of beautiful spots within our community, and this is an excellent way for us to encourage, use of those facilities and to also get married at the same time. So thank you, clerk, for setting that up. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Good. The next one is a health and safety and workplace violence and harassment prevention policy. The recommendation is the Council of Township Whitewater Region approve the updates to the Schedule B and M of bylaw number 2107-1404 to update the health and safety and workplace violence and harassment prevention policies. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Trim.
Yep.
CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So pursuant to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the employer, being the corporation of the Township of Whitewater Region, we're required to prepare these policies and review them annually. So the last renewal was also done in September of 2023. So the 2 policies form part of a series of human resource policies. That's why we're referencing them as Schedules B and Schedules M. So they form part of a fulsome bylaw of human resource policies, including promotion and pay and vacation and the like. So as an employer, it is our legal responsibility to keep employees and other visitors to our community, to our facilities, safe from any harm. So we haven't made any modifications to the policies that are being presented to council. They're certainly working for us in their current state. So the next step with respect to this is that there's a sort of a statement, health and safety policy statement, that the mayor and I will sign, and it'll get posted on our boards throughout each of our facilities. So just reassuring to the employees that we have a policy and that we're committed to that policy as well. And then I will only add that with respect to the workplace violence and harassment policy, just highlighting to the members of council that there have been recent instances of unreasonable behavior, whether that be at the front counter or over the phone. So just recognizing that as the CAO, sort of the lead for the employer, certainly we're not going to tolerate that. We have a policy in place. Staff are being informed and educated of that policy, and we're putting in place necessary protocols, including standard operating procedures, additional signage to try to prevent any more unwanted behavior. So just recognizing that we will employ different tools to try to support staff in managing any unwanted behavior. So just, and again, to the general public, the front line staff are not the ones who establish tax rates. They are not the ones that establish the different levels of service. So they're just receiving your payment and processing your payment. So try to be easy on them if you could, and be respectful. So again, just recognizing that in any situation, we are empowering our employees to refuse service. So if they are of the view that the behavior is unreasonable, employees may choose to refuse service. So we are empowering them to do that, and hopefully we don't have to deal with this in the future. So thanks so much.
Thanks, CAO. We'll take questions. I'll start with the mover, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. No, it's exactly what I was hoping for, and is well done. Thank you.
Good. And seconder, Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the CAO. I noticed reading through this that there are opportunities and requirements to report an incident. And I'm just wondering, do we have a standard form, a boilerplate form for reporting, an incident report form that would gather the information you would need no matter the incident? I'm just wondering if there is such a thing.
Yeah, so the policy does not have a templated form attached to it. There is a clear process by which you could report an incident and the information you should be reporting, date, time, and the like. Through our standard operating procedure that we've just drafted and we're going to present to staff in the next few days, we've attached a template. So there'll be a template document that staff could utilize to report any incidents. And we're going to try to track it a little bit better. So just recognizing the gravity of the incident and how it's been managed to see if the mechanisms we put in place are effective or not. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. And questions or comments from other members of council? Councillor Olmsted.
I know I should know this after being here this long, but are there cameras at the front counter? Is it being monitored?
So presently there are no cameras at the front counter. Certainly that's a strategy that could be considered to be employed. I would, in conversation with our treasurer on this, who have the majority of the staff at the front counter, feel that the mitigation measures we're putting in place now should be suitable, recognizing that we don't control the public, but that would be a strategy we could employ in the future, I think, if there's no change in the behavior.
If I may further?
Yes, please.
So roughly how many people, how many residents would the front counter staff serve in a day?
I would ask our treasurer maybe to provide some input into that. It certainly is sort of a roller coaster because of tax bill due dates, water, sewer. So I think there might not be any concern for a long period of time, and then for 1 week before the due date, it builds up, and likely naturally just the larger workload is an impact, but also just there's more contact with residents. So. I don't have the exact number. I'm not sure. Could you share a number, Curtis, by any means? The number of people they would see on a daily basis, on average?
So during the tax due date time, August being one of our busier times, that could be anywhere between 50 to 100 people a day. But it also includes the actual phone calls and stuff as well. And those phone calls can be 100 a day. So it's a combination of both pieces. But it tends to occur more prominently whenever tax rate increases are hit, whenever the final bill comes out in August, or whenever the first billing comes out from water, which happens in March. Those are both the times whenever actual increases happen, and that's whenever the questions and the concerns come out from the public. And that's just part of the course, but it's that they're receiving those comments and being directed to them without being able to direct them to other staff or management to deal with.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Good. Any other questions from members of council? No, I just thank staff for being able to renew this on an annual basis as is required. And just, you know, harassing behavior or being aggressive is not something that we need to accept. I know that the policy allows for escalating ways to be able to deal with that, with the ultimate result being to refuse service, but we also have many steps between that to ensure that we try to address the situation, but do so in a manner that protects our employees. So I thank you for that. Good. Any other comments? Good. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Next item, and I publicly will acknowledge that Councillor Olmsted is leaving the room. He has declared pecuniary interest on item 9.4 and will leave the room for the duration of the discussion. Excellent. So 9.4 is the Grant Settlement Road Black Rock Bridge repair. So the recommendation is that the council approve the in-kind donation of waste site disposal fees related to the decking of the Grant Settlement Road Black Rock Bridge. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Our community services manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was contacted and have been having ongoing conversations with the Snow Country as well as the Renfrew County ATV Club in what they can do with the Grant Settlement Bridge, the Black Rock Bridge. They have put through 2 applications so far to the Ontario Trillium Foundation as well as a FedDev grant. We've submitted with their application letters of support to hope that funding would come through for them. Unfortunately, it hasn't. So what they're looking for now is they've gone ahead with some of the funds that they were putting together in those grant applications, and they would still like to go ahead and make the repair work completed on this bridge. The amount that the boards will cost, both of these groups, will be over $40,000. And what they're looking for from us is no tipping fees at our waste site to be able to dispose of the boards that will be coming off the bridge. So I've spoken with Deanna, in our staff, and she has confirmed she believes that the approximate cost of the waste would be between $1,050 and $1,575 if they were to take it themselves and dispose of it at our waste site. That's generally what they would be charged. We've based that cost on what they're ordering for new boards to come into and replace what's already there. The completion of the work, they're hoping to get done all by volunteer hours and hard work. So they've also put together a day of bridge repairs, and they've got a short link opened up for anybody to sign up if they're interested in helping out, to go up the path and turn left and bring your tools. So I wanted to just put that out to council, and we're requesting that the recommendation to offer the in-kind donation of the waste site disposal fees relating to the redecking of the Grant Settlement Bridge. So I'll leave that with you if you have any questions.
I'm fully in favor of this. Keeping in mind all that work being done is by volunteers. It brings in tourists into our township summer and winter, so it's nice to see them upkeeping that. Otherwise, we would either have to close it or we would have to go and physically do the work ourselves. So it's awful good of these volunteers to keep the township moving. Thank you.
Councillor Tabbert, I think you've seen this bridge, haven't you?
Yes, a few months ago, I walk along there quite a bit, and I spoke to Manager Plebin because I was concerned about the state of this bridge. I wanted it closed. I mean, even walking across it is hazardous. So I was very happy to read this, that they're going to be redecking it, I guess it's considered. And yes, I do hope that we do pass this, that we don't charge them for the fees. And I would like to invite everyone out on October the 5th for some work on the bridge. Now, I will not be going because I don't like heights, but yeah, I think this is a wonderful thing to see in our community.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of council? Good, I see none. My comment that I'll put forward is yes, to echo Councillor Moore, an incredible opportunity here. We're seeing a force multiplier. Our investment of up to $1,500 buys us $40,000 of the product and hours of dedicated volunteer commitment. And this trail is now our property, and it's not just for tourism, but also for our own public use. So it's important for us to recognize this effort, and I thank them for what they've done. Good. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. If we could call in Councillor Olmsted, please. I don't need to sign anything, right? That. Excellent. Good. And I'll just acknowledge that we are welcoming Councillor Olmsted back. He had declared on the previous item 9.4 and is rejoining us. 9.5 is our 2025 budget direction. The Council of Township Whitewater Region, the recommendation is that the Council of Township Whitewater Region approve the approach and timetable for the 2025 budget planning process. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Bell. Good. And I'm going to hand this over to our treasurer, correct?
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Thank you. So yeah, it's that time of year again. What I brought forward with this report is the timetable and the rates looked at for the 2025 budget. Just as a timetable piece, so in 2022, the budget was adopted in January 19th, 2022. 2023, we adopted that budget February 15th of 2023. It was delayed due to the Q4 election occurring in 2022. And then last year, we adopted the budget by December 20th of 2023 for 2024. So the 2024 total municipal levy was $7,195,000. So just as a point of note, that a 1% increase or decrease equates to $71,950. On the actual report, there's a chart that I have illustrated to show all county municipalities at $100,000 of assessment.
Sorry, if you can pause for a second. Can you blow that up so we can actually, maybe just, perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
So as you can see, it compares Whitewater Region to all other 18 municipalities within the county, including the city of Pembroke. The bar graph is what the tax rates are, which includes education, county, and municipal portion, and it compares them all to each other. The red line that you see is what the actual increases were last year. So you can see where Whitewater came in on our actual increase, one of the lowest within the actual, within all the municipalities. Our increase was $43.95 in grand total, versus some of the other municipalities that were in the more $50 and above range. That overall increase was the 6.2% of a levy increase last year, which worked out in the very end to be a 3.5% levy or a tax rate increase that the actual taxpayers seen. So the next part is the impacts impacting this year's budget. So consumer price index affects our budget every year. It is what drives inflation, and that increases all the costs for all assets. This year, through Statistics Canada, the 12-month annualized CPI between June 2023 and June 2024 was 3%. This amount is what is tied to all inflation of all assets in Ontario, and it is generated by Statistics Canada. For federal and provincial funding, so the municipality receives 3 different federal outside fundings every year. One is the Ontario Municipal Fund. This is an operating grant not tied to capital. Last year, for 2024, we received $1.149 million. At this point in time of writing, it hasn't yet to be confirmed. However, November tends to be the time whenever that confirmation comes through. That amount of funding is tied to the actual population and households of the municipality as a funding to support all the operations of the municipality. The next funding we also receive is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, or OSIF. So it is a grant that's given through Ontario to support the infrastructure needs, core infrastructure needs of the municipality. In 2023, we received $645,000 or $561,000. In 2024, we received $645,900. It is expected that we'll see a 15% increase in that for 2025, which has been allocated into our budget this year. Traditionally, this funding has been used to fund assets only under the general budget portfolio. However, since this funding is based on the current replacement value of assets, which is derived from our asset management plan, this year it's been noted by staff to direct the portion of which our water and wastewater assets account for that actual fund to allocate that funding from OSIF towards those assets or towards that department, the water wastewater side. So coming forward into 2025, there would be a portion allocated weighted at the amount of assets per the asset management plan. Instead of just directing it to roads projects and things as typically done, that would actually fund those 2 line items. Lastly is the Canada Community Building Fund. It's formerly the federal gas tax. It is secured through the Association of Municipalities Ontario, AMO, through agreements with the federal government of Canada, the provincial government of Ontario, and then it is distributed to the municipalities. This fund aims to support local infrastructure priorities. It is expected through their projections to be $236,620 for 2025, and the 2020 allotment, which we have received 50% of so far, is $227,155. The next point on the budget impacts is the the infrastructure gap. So, like many Ontario municipalities, there continues to be a gap between what the municipality can actually fund and the actual replacement value required for all the assets that we currently maintain and have ownership over. So our asset management plan, when it was developed in 2022, listed an annual infrastructure gap of $11.7 million. It recommended that we do 4.2% of a tax levy increase for tax-funded assets, 7.1% for rate-funded water assets, and 2.9% for sanitary sewer assets. Currently, the municipality commits 4.2% of the previous year's levy to put towards capital, which is per that AMP recommendation. And for 2025, this would equal $302,190, plus the previous year's contributions for a total of $885,042. This graph shows from 2016 when the township actually put very little to no money away for not away, but towards to funding capital assets. In 2016 is whenever the Capital Reinvestment Reserve was created, which started to fund assets out of our actual tax levy instead of 100% relying on grants. So that amount slowly built, and then in 2024, that is the combination of now the 4.2 being added to the original 4.8 that was the year before. So the trend line going after that is what we would see if we continued with that 4.2% increase year after year, which, as you can see, by the year 2032 is about $3.6 million. The Asset Management Planning for Infrastructure Regulation, or OREG 58817, it requires municipalities prioritize infrastructure investment, and that's where this 4.2% is coming from. So the capital portion of the taxation levy, the Canada Community Building Fund and the OSIF fund, estimating 2025 allotments, would yield capital contributions of approximately $1.75 million, and this amount gets closer to the amount set out by our AMP. However, it still falls short and still requires that build process. Another impact to the budget is our municipal insurance. So the 2025 increase has not been received to date, but in 2024 there was a 7% increase year over year, and at this point in time it's expected to be similar. That equates to $16,200 on our levy. Municipal contracts is another impact. There's currently a number of contracts that are still up for renewal and are currently being negotiated. Under the water wastewater side is our aqua contract. On the there's a amount that has to be come up with for the police services board, which we have just started into for 2025, and then for under the waste management side is our waste collection contract, with the change of the actual collection for the municipality not doing the recycling program anymore. So, in conclusion, the financial impacts that we're looking at today is a 6.2% overall levy increase. So we would go plus or minus a 2% operating levy increase. That includes a 3% council and staff cost of living adjustment, which again is based on the 12-month June to June CPI. And then plus or minus 4.2% for the general capital levy increase, which again is per the asset management plan. For water, wastewater, we would look at both 3%. Water could go between 3 to 7.84. The 3% number comes from using actual inflation as its amount, with the fact that we were able to reallocate money from our OSIF to fund the water and wastewater amounts. It's able to kind of stabilize those rates, rather than the 7.84 was to get us back to the point when the water wastewater study stated that we should be at by the year 2029. It kind of offsets that amount. So on our new water wastewater study, there'll be an amount that they'll allocate for that, and then redo our projections based on that. It's believed by staff to be a more reasonable thing to stick with CPI than going with the full amount at this point in time. We'll be able to stabilize the rate that way. So we'd be looking at a 3% for both water and wastewater. So the tentative schedule is October 2nd. There would be an all-day meeting for the budget presentation, which would be a fulsome presentation similar to last year, going through all areas of the budget. October 16th, we would hold the budget public meeting, which would start later on in the afternoon or at the evening, and go for the full public meeting again. So it would be a full presentation on the same topic. November 6th would be the discussion of revised budgets and council deliberation for review and direction, and then be able to pass the budget by December 4th. Any questions?
Great. Thank you, Treasurer. I know there's a lot that you presented there, and we've all had a chance to review that report in depth before council. So what we'll do now is we'll turn it over for questions, and I'm going to start with our mover, Councillor Olmsted. Questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions at this point, as Curtis and I have met, and we've gone over in detail some of these plans. I'd like to, you must have known what I was going to say. You brought the graph up already. We continue to challenge staff to keep our rates low, and in 10 years, it's kind of getting to be old hand that we keep hammering staff that we can't raise rates. You know, nobody likes paying taxes. I think this graph here is a great example of what we've been able to accomplish over the last number of years. If you can see where Whitewater region is, it's right on those 4 or 5 very flat lines, right smack in the middle. Right, in my opinion, where we should be. Now, without mentioning names, if you look at some of the names around where we are, how many of them are operating multiple arenas, water plants, multiple water plants, a sewer plant, multiple fire stations? Not many of those right around where we're sitting at offer the same services that we do. So I'm proud of that record. We challenged them last year, as you see by that red or orange line, what happened in some of the regions last year. And that's not going to be uncommon moving forward either from some of the neighboring municipalities. You know, some of them had over 20% increases over the last year, and you're going to see some of that come forward again. So again, with a 2% and a 4.2%, I'm pretty proud of the plan that we put together. If you just maybe move over to that other graph that you had, I think it was called the comps. Yeah, that one there. In my opinion, very important that we put money away for the future, and we've demonstrated that in this graph. In case you can't read it, maybe I should try to read it as well. You know, up until 2016, 2017, we really relied on grants to put money away. We put zero levy money, zero taxation money away for future. And you cannot count on receiving funds every year from the provincial and federal government. So we've put forward a plan here that puts some of the taxation money away in reserves. And you can see by, about 8 years, we have a nice fund. And we're seeing the results over the years of take water, sewer, of just not investing, not putting money away, and all of a sudden they're big hits. And we've got to get over that hump of investing for the future, and that's to me, that's what this graph here shows. So I'm proud of where we've been. I'm proud of where what this looks like. We'll go through in details over the next couple of months and dig in and see the puts and takes on it. But I'd recommend that the council approve this recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Olmsted. And with that, I'll go to the seconder, which is Councillor Bell, and he is virtual. Can we, just because we have public here, Sean, can we put his face in front of everybody? Yep. Good, thank you. Councillor Bell.
Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Yep, got me?
We got you.
Yeah, so just basically echoing a lot of what Councillor Olmsted just said, and I think that's something that I've realized over the last couple of years is that, you know, through that asset management plan, I think there's that recognition that the pressure on the township and rehabbing and upkeeping the infrastructure that we have, and we're going to continue to develop. I think, unfortunately, we'd like to see that tax increase be 0% every year, but that's not the reality right now. I think whenever you look at that graph comparatively to the surrounding areas, I think staff is doing a good job at trying to keep these increases as low as possible. We're trying to put money away for future infrastructure investment, which it may hurt a little bit short term for the residents right now and the people or the taxpayers in Whitewater having to pay increases every year, but I think they're manageable and kind of a necessary evil at this point. That's the one point as well. Last year, I think our operating increase was 1%. This year, we're looking at a 2% increase, and so I think that shows that the staff have the right idea about where to put the money that the taxes are going to and where to invest it, and hopefully we're creating that sustainable plan for not not this year, next year, but for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years when, you know, all these pieces of infrastructure throughout Whitewater need to be rehabbed and rehabilitated. So, yeah, I'm happy with the report as I see it. And again, I agree that we should pass the direction as it's stated here.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Any other members of council that wish to comment or have any questions? Councillor Trim.
Yes, also, you have to give credit to staff, Mr. Mayor, for being able to keep the taxes to this amount. And of course, I would love to see the details because I'm worried, frankly, that the operating is at 2%, whereas the CPI is at 3%. And so I'm interested in how we're going to do it without reducing service. Now, we will see that presented to us, but I'll be watching for that because it's one thing to keep taxes low, and that's important, and I fully agree with that. But are we maintaining a level of service that our people expect? And so I'll be watching for that, but yes, I'm certainly going to vote in favor of this because, you know, I don't want my taxes or anyone else's taxes to go up unnecessarily, but how are we doing it? I will be interested in that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of council? Good. There hasn't been any comment yet about the proposed timeline. Does anybody have any input on the timeline? Can we flip the timeline up there, please, Claire? It's a little bit of a change from what we've done in the past. It allows for significantly more time for us to engage with the public and to contemplate any feedback we get from the public. Is there any comments? Councillor Moore.
Just wondering, October 2nd, that's an actual council meeting, so are we going to have enough time to actually go through all the budget and have a council meeting?
And I'll flip that over to the CAO.
I would just, we're proposing that October 2nd we'd start the meeting earlier, somewhere in around 9 a.m. and it'd kind of be like a full day sort of session, 9 or 9:30. So we'd do a portion in the morning and then we would convene for lunch and then we'd continue in the afternoon. So it would be strictly the budget, all and except the water and wastewater task force that I mentioned earlier tonight. So those would be the only 2 agenda items. There'd be no other council business on that day. So availability for October 2nd starting at 9 is important, and we could discuss that after the meeting if we need to.
Thank you.
Good. So just to acknowledge 2 things there. There may be, if an emergency issue comes up, right, we always reserve the right to be able to amend the agenda. That's part of our procedural bylaw. But as also, when we approve this timetable, this schedule, we are approving the fact that it's going to go longer than 3 hours on October 2nd. So that is in combination with this resolution. We are acknowledging that as a full day. We're not going to limit ourselves to a 3-hour proceeding. Good. Is there any other comments? Good. I'm just going to go through my list here and see if I check off what's already been brought up. Can we go to the OSIF paragraph? Yeah, right there. So here I just want to acknowledge, and I know it's complex with the many different grant streams that we're getting from the province, but this is an important catch that the staff has made, and it hasn't been made in isolation. This is one of the recommendations that we're going to see in the task force report that's coming to council on October 2nd. So we're already in anticipation of some of those key recommendations. But in this area, we're seeing that the OSIF is calculated on all of the assets throughout the township, including water and wastewater. That's how the new allocations and the forecasted increases are going to be allocated. We want to make sure that we recognize that and proportion it out into our wastewater and water. So it allows us to get a stream of funding specifically dedicated to water and wastewater. That helps alleviate increased pressures on our users of those two systems. So an important catch by both the task force and staff. Good. Infrastructure gap. The one small one was just the recycling program. The treasurer did mention that we weren't going to be doing it in the future. We are, just somebody else is going to be doing it and paying for it. So it's not discontinued, but it was just out of context if somebody was listening. And the last one is just the infrastructure gap slide. Councillor Olmsted brought it up, and I'm just going to hammer it again. So, no, blue one, yeah. Good. So, and I do this every time we talk about budget. In 2032, I think that's the FAR number on the bottom right. In 2032, we are forecasting to have collected about $3.5 million in that year dedicated towards capital investment. Plus, later on in the report, the treasurer said we can count on about 1.7 million from the province. Say by 2032, that's up to 2 million. So the province is saying, here's $2 million for your capital, and we've put aside 3.5. Total in the capital pot for 2032 is $5.5 million. Incredible. Assuming in 2016, we were just doing whatever grant we could get. However, in the other part of the presentation, the treasurer said we need a forecasted $12 million a year into capital in order to maintain and keep all of the assets we have. So this is only going to be half of the money we need to sustain what we have. That tells me that we have to make sure that we're looking at our assets and can we afford all of them in the state that they are. And over time, that's going to be a discussion that we have to have. We're on the path to having a great amount of money invested to be able to maintain and have good roads and fire halls and rec centers, but we still won't be able to afford everything that we have. So just a comment on that. The 4.2, the 2%, I think they're great approaches. Reality strikes us from another angle. Good. Is there any other comments? Any other comments or questions from members of council? Going once, twice? Good. We'll call for a vote on the motion, acknowledging that this includes extending the hours of the October 2nd meeting or any meeting required for the budget purposes. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Thank you for your work on that one, Treasurer. Good. Notices of motion. Is there any member of council, Deputy Mayor, that wishes to put a notice of motion on the table? Okay, seeing none. Correspondence. There are no items of correspondence that require council direction. However, there are 4 items of information, and we're going to just speak to a couple of these, and between staff and myself, mostly staff. Okay, good. The first item is this county real estate, Renfrew County real estate stats. These are provided to us from the real estate board. Talks about market sales and what's on the market, how long it's been on the market. We actually just were able to link up with one of the members, one of the residents who were here for the public meeting earlier. They are going to try to arrange that we get a briefing on how to read this information, how we might be able to use it in our decisions that we go forward. So look forward to that. For now, it's just in there for your information, but hopefully soon we'll have some context by which to receive that information. The second item is a New Horizons letter of support, and Manager Community Service.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Whitewater Seniors Home Support and Active Living Center, as you all know, opened today, officially. The group has put their heads together and they've created a project to apply for the New Horizons for Seniors program funding, which came out. The deadline for application was the middle of September. The program that they're planning to do will provide the intergenerational cooking and congregate dining for residents in our area. They're proposing quarterly cooking classes involving youth and seniors, and then monthly congregate dining opportunities to residents. And the total grant application was for $25,000, which is the limit, and it is 100% paid. So just some background.
Thank you, and hopefully we'll hear some good news on that grant. The next item is the Age-Friendly Communities panel that took place at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario's conference in August. We received a letter from Minister Cho thanking us for our participation. As I mentioned earlier, we were invited to be speakers at this panel to share with them our success and how we worked with our seniors community to be able to get to the point where we have a seniors active living center. Very well received. Minister was very excited, and we have a thank you letter that we received from him. So good. And the next item is announcement of the Rural Transit Solutions Fund between North Algona, Wilberforce, Whitewater Region, and Bonnechere Valley Townships. And this is going to the CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So this matter was presented briefly to council. I think it was in November or December 2023. At that time, we were considering and just seeking the concurrence from council to make the application in partnership with Bonnechere Valley and North Algona Wilberforce. So we did end up filing the application. Bonnechere Valley and Ed Gilchrist just recognizing her leadership on this. The application was filed, and we were successful in obtaining a grant. The grant is valued at $387,000, which represents 80% of the project cost. So we're going to include our contribution to this, which is not our financial contribution into this program, which will commence in 2025 as part of the budget deliberations and discussions. So we're extremely pleased to have been successful for this. So what this will do is it will secure in Whitewater Region 1 zero-emission vehicle and 2 charging stations. So there will be a vehicle that will be available for the public and other different types of implementation needs, whether that's with our seniors or the like. So the full implementation plan, not quite figured out just yet, but we're working through that with our partners. But we're looking to have that completed over the next 2 or 3 months for implementation in early 2025. And the next time you'll see this will be as part of the budget discussions. Thanks.
I'll just add another at the conference, OEMC conference that I attended. I'm losing my time. A week and a half ago. In Ottawa. I attended one of the presentations was on energy, and part of the discussion was about electrification, and they're using these electric charging stations to attract people off of transit highways. So as an example, in the situation they described is that you could put some slow chargers or level 3 chargers on Main Street, right? Almost like where you put your money in, a parking meter. People would come, drive by, see that it's in Cobden. Oh, I got a charging station there. I'm going to charge for half an hour, and I'm going to go to Dante's. Or I'm going to go stop off and go to the Legion for a barbecue. Whatever it is, it's a way of bringing people in, and they're looking for something to do while their charge is taking place. So this grant is another opportunity. We could use it that way, but it also kind of opens some other thoughts if opportunities like this arise in the future where we could use charging stations as one more tool in our toolbox. And just to ask Councillor Trim.
Yes, it's further to that, when you say opportunities like this, I have noted in Westmeath, for example, electric vehicles parked with bike racks on them. And people have come to the community and they're biking. And I think it could attract people from further away if they knew that when they got to Westmeath, while they're biking, they could be charging. And so further to what you've stated, Mr. Mayor, that's another example of why there should be some charging opportunities off the main transportation routes. Thank you.
And it is a revenue stream. The investment in the initial chargers are typically paid off between 4 and 5 years, and then it's revenue. So it is an opportunity from that perspective as well. Anyway, those are the 4 information items. Is there any other comments from members of council on those 4 information items? Good, seeing none, we'll move to announcements, and we will start with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Bell, now he may have gotten called out. Good, we'll go past him if he comes. Oh, there he is.
I'm still here, but I don't have announcements.
Perfect, thank you, Councillor Bell. Perfect. And Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, I have a few announcements. I'm happy to announce that the Cobden Arena is now open for the 2024-25 ice season. Bookings are available online or through Amber at bookings@whitewaterregion.ca. You can also join the email list for the Cobden Arena through bookings@whitewaterregion.ca, where weekly emails will be going out to our contact list with available ice at all 3 Whitewater Region arenas. Public skating is now happening in the Cobden and Beachburg arenas. Public skating is in Cobden on September 17th from 4:30 to 5:30, September 20th from 5 till 6, September 24th from 4:30 to 5:30, September 27th from 5 to 6. In Beachburg, the skating is September 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. and September 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. And there will be Mum and Tot and Senior. I'm guessing this is at the Cobden Arena? Okay, at the Cobden Arena from 2 to 3 on September 18th and 2 to 3 on September 25th. A special event happening is the Beachburg Fiber Festival, which is happening on Saturday, September 29th. Is it Saturday? Or is that a Sunday? Is it Sunday? Oh, yes, Sunday, September 29th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is at the Beachburg Heritage Hall from 10 to 4 p.m. The Ross Museum is having another wonderful end of the season barbecue this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Come and enjoy good food, great company, and cherished memories. The barbecue is free, however, donations are appreciated. And the Cobden School is having, hold a minute, a fun fair on the 19th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And on September 26th, the Renfrew Special Olympics Torch Run by the OPP is happening. It begins at 10 a.m. at the Town Hall and goes to the OPP building on O'Brien Road, where it will be followed with a barbecue and a basketball game between the police officers and community members. Thank you, that's it.
Okay, just one clarification. That, you said Town Hall, that's Town Hall here or Renfrew?
The Town Hall in Renfrew.
Okay, good. Excellent, thank you. Councillor Olmsted.
Would you believe I had all the exact same announcements? So I have none. Thank you.
Pretty hard to follow Councillor Tabbert on announcements. Good. Councillor Moore.
I do. The annual Renfrew County Road Supervisors Association Truck Safety Rodeo was held on September 5th, which 3 of our members from Public Works Department participated. They were Nathan Tubby, Lucas Hewitt, and Derek Bennett. The truck rodeo is a competition designed to test the skills and knowledge of equipment operators for safe operation of snowplow equipment. The competition was open to all equipment operators employed with a municipality locally within the Renfrew County. I'm proud to announce that Nathan Tubby received third place out of 35 drivers that participated. Nathan will be attending the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors Provincial Safety Truck Rodeo on September 25th in Peterborough. Congratulations and good luck. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, huge congratulations. And I'm so glad that Public Works participates in this rodeo. And so proud to see one of our guys go on to the provincials. Great. Regionals or provincials?
Provincials.
Provincials? Excellent. Good. Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 in order of date. So on Saturday, September 21st, from 1 to 5, there's going to be a celebratory arts event called Heartbeat of the Valley, and this is being organized by a local artist who has won a number of awards, Don Kwan, and it's going to be at the Westmeath District Recreation Association. There will be several other local artists, and I'm hoping people can make time to come out to it. On the Taste of the Valley, which of course is an annual event, will be at the Cobden Agricultural Hall and Playgrounds Saturday, October 19th from 10 till 3. And there will be this year over 165 vendors. This will be the largest Taste of the Valley event ever. Cobden always had the largest one, but this is even larger than Cobden has had. So hopefully people will be able to attend it, and I know that the organizers have asked councillors to pitch in and help where they can. And so contact Rebecca, I believe it is. Is that correct?
Yeah, Rebecca or Debbie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. And for ways that you may be able to help. And finally, October 22nd to 24th, Municipal Agriculture Economic Development and Planning Forum will take place over 3 days in Pembroke at the Best Western Pembroke Inn and Conference Center. And those people who should be interested in attending are rural municipal planners and economic development staff, individuals involved with agricultural economic development, policy making, and workforce attraction, and individuals working in the food, farming, and agri-food value chain. So basically, anyone in farming. And so I believe, I've been told that there will be staff attending on behalf of the municipality, but anyone who's interested in this can attend, and you can register.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Chairman. I'll just add to that last one. If you are thinking of registering, the clerk has helped me register, and the deputy mayor is registered. We have a huge agricultural portion of our municipality. I think we are the largest. 58% of our land mass is agricultural based. $40 million in production a year. So an investment that I'm making in attending. There are options to attend, not all 3 days. You can attend the tour, you can attend the welcome night, you can attend the day of presentations and discussions. But I'd encourage you to check it out with the clerk. If you have time, or you can make yourselves available, great. And if not, the deputy mayor and I will represent. Good. New to this announcements piece, I'm going to just highlight some of the events that I will be attending on behalf of council in the coming weeks until October 2nd. I'll just highlight some in case you'd like to also participate, or at least you'll know where I've been going. Okay. Some of these have already been counted. So Take Back the Night is occurring on September 19th at 6:30 p.m. at the Petawawa Civic Center. So the Renfrew County Sexual Assault and Rape Crisis Center is hosting this event as a march against violence towards women to reclaim the streets and unite our communities, and I'll be attending on behalf of council. The Celebration of Arts event that Councillor Trim mentioned, I've been invited and will be attending. The Historical Society's barbecue, I'm planning to attend for my own sausage. The County of Renfrew Day on September 26th, which is open to municipal councillors and staff to meet county staff and get a better appreciation for the different department operations at the county level. I'll be attending that, as well as you're all invited for whatever portion of the event that you can participate. The Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce Business Excellent Gala is happening on September 28th We have 4 Whitewater Region businesses who have applied for an award to be presented at this gala. Wilderness Tours of Foresters Falls, Whitewater O'Brien Winery from Westmeath, Ottawa Valley First Aid from Haley Station, and Inner Strength and Training here from Cobden. Best of luck to these 4 businesses, so I'll be there, and there are other seats available if there's any other interested parties. The Fiber Festival, thanks for bringing it up, Councillor Tower. I'm not going to be able to attend, so thank you for raising it up, but I won't be able to be there. My son's birthday, and I'll be in Kingston. Truth and Reconciliation occurs on September 30th. And you will see our main flagpole here at the Township Office flying an orange flag in expression of our remembrance. Truth and Reconciliation Day honors the children who never returned home and the survivors of residential schools, as well as their families and communities. Public commemoration of this tragedy and the painful history and ongoing impacts of the residential schools is a vital component of the reconciliation process. So you will see our main mast here at the Township Office flying that orange flag, starting, I believe it's happening Friday. Yeah, it's going to fly Friday through the weekend till Monday. Good. That concludes the activities I've got on my list until next council meeting. Good. Questions or comments? Yeah, sure. Council Moore.
I missed one. I just found this out today and I didn't have time to research. Apparently the Beachburg Fair Board will have their annual thank you luncheon, and I do believe it is on, well, it's lost me, but I think it's the 5th of October. No, 6th of October, a Sunday afternoon. I think it's 1 to 3. But I don't have any information on it yet, but all of us that worked in the food booth will be invited to attend. So when I find out when that information is, I will pass it along.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other finals? Excellent. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is bylaws. There are 2 bylaws listed on the agenda. For September 18th, the recommendation is that be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the September 18th, 2024 agenda be taken as read and passed. A mover and a seconder. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Any final comments or questions, concerns with those 2 items listed on our agenda? Good. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Item number 14 allows us to schedule for a closed session. We have no closed session for this evening, and therefore we can adjourn. Oh, yes, Councillor Olmsted wants to jump in with something. Okay.
God forbid. I forgot an announcement.
You are at the wire.
I know. Happy birthday, Mom.
And with that, we are adjourning at 6:56 p.m. Thank you.